Welcome to another week on the couch, Dan and Dane. And this week, what we're going to discuss is you're sitting there and you're in your posting location and you've got an investment property, you've gone and acquired it and you're waiting for it to register and everything like that. And then suddenly the man calls you and says, hey, mate, you're going to stay in location for another 3 years.
Ooh, it's a big one because posting order season, it's coming around. People are starting to get word. It's like, hey, are you going to stick in this location or are you moving on?
Yeah. So with that, a lot of people find a bit of a dilemma then because they're like, oh, well, I've got a bit more time on my side. Like, should I go get a property where I'm living now and I'll forget the investment property because now I'll be able to satisfy, my housing grants by staying in it for a certain amount of time and so on and so forth. So what would you do?
Ooh,
right?
It's a big question. Fundamentally, it always comes back to the strategy, right? Why are we doing this? Why did we decide in the first instance to go down the investment route versus doing your own home route? Or why did we think that this was a good idea in the first place? Because for some people, you might be heading down the investment route because you looked at the numbers and you go, look, it's going to cost me $3,000 a month more to live in my own home than to live in RA. But for some people, they equally might just be sitting there going, you know what? I live in a really shit location when it comes to capital growth from that perspective. So you might be sitting there going, well, I don't want to buy a property here either. And just because the government's dangling like a $20,000, $30,000 incentive in front of me, you might get swayed over there for the fast cash. Fast money, mate, is very appealing.
Potentially, yeah. But it's not always as it seems. And as you point on there, if you actually go and crunch the numbers all the time and you're going mano a mano with the bank, right? It's a pretty big slog, If you're sitting in RA or service residence, you're living in accommodation or anything like that, that is the gravy train. Like I always sort of have a bit of a, inner sort of laugh when I hear about people chasing HPAS. Like HPAS is taxable. By the time it hits your skyrocket, it could be 10 or 11 grand. I guarantee that what you would pay in market rent would quickly soak that up, right? Or especially your mortgage repayments and so on and so forth. So what you want to do is make sure that the strategy is still rock solid. Don't be sort of, tempted with that. As Dan pointed out, location's a big one. Okay. We still have that end game. Where do we want to get to? How much money do I want by the time I get there? What's my exit strategy and so on and so forth. So don't let the posting sort of carrot, sort of change you from there. So make sure you're like, hey, look, if that is, but if you are in a great location, everything like that, yes, it might be something worth it.
Yeah, it might be worth re-looking at the strategy. I think it always comes back to that. If you're questioning it and you go, hang on, maybe the right move for me now that I've got another 3 years is to head down this route, then it's worth having a conversation just to make sure you've definitely got all your ducks in a row.
Yep, absolutely. That's it. So see you next week on the couch.